Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Shadowlands video. Well, collecting stuff to make your character look cool. That sure did happen in Legion with their artifacts and all that stuff. But in BFA, well, quite a lot less so. And I think the lack of replayability in that, especially for alts, has really showed. So today, we're going to take a look at the new Covenant Transmog sets, plus the new cloak system, and a few other tidbits, especially that moss stuff. It is really nice looking. And I'll tell you what, right? From first glance, it actually does look like Blizz want you to have a serious reason to roll your alts, level them up through those Covenants, just like with Legion. That certainly bodes well. So with that said, let's just get stuck in. Okay, let's kick it off with Art and Wield, and we will start off with the 3 different cloak options that you get. Now, these right now are labeled Tier 1, 2, and 3, though I don't think that's any sort of permanent upgrade. I think this is just 3 different options that you will be able to unlock over time. So, Tier 1, you know, does it look like a garden feature? Yes. Is walking around with a garden feature on your back feasible in the real world? No, you might get stuck indoors, but this one I actually think is quite nice. It'll let you customize the silhouette of your character a little bit more, and with those blue glows, I think, yeah, it'll look quite nice. And certainly there are transmogrification sets that exist in the game that I can see this working on quite well indeed. So I think its first version off to a good start, but the second one is what I really love, because when I think about Art and Wield, I am thinking less about the brown tones and stuff like that, the more traditional foresty tones, and I'm more thinking about that kind of bioluminescent, sort of twilight feeling blue, right, that you see from the concept art. And the Tier 2 one, I mean, man, yeah, you've got this bulb thing that you're walking around with in your back with 2 little moths on it. Now, these moths are animated, and that really is a thing that we've not seen before in a bit of character customization in World of Warcraft, or at least have barely seen. Certainly, this is an entirely new-looking aesthetic, and I think this is extremely strong. This is the type of creativity in character customization that I really do want to see the team actually, well, be putting into the game. And something like this, by virtue of feeling so unique, yeah, you're pretty damn right, that's going to be something that players will be excited to actually grind up and unlock. And then finally, there is the 3rd version of it, and yes, this is more of a regular backpack, of course, following on in the new tradition of backpacks for cloak slots that we've seen with the Rathian one in 8.3, and then, of course, before that, the Recruit a Friend one. Certainly a more traditional looking look, but I think one that will more universally look good across like different transmog sets. Overall, though, really nice. It's going to give you some color, a little bit of glowiness with those 2, well, glowy bell things. Yeah, I think a pretty lovely looking thing, and between these 3 cloaks, I think that Art and Wield is looking super strong. Of course, that's not it though, because next we have got to cover the Art and Wield transmog sets. We're going to kick it off with the Art and Wield plate. Oh wow, I mean, whenever I saw that sort of that like bleached bone stuff from Dazar'alor, I thought it was really cool. And then seeing that, but you know, it's like wood. I think it is absolutely gorgeous. In terms of what I really like about this, I love the green shading that Blizzard have went with when it comes to like the bottom. I think that's really, really, really nice. So, you know, it's not just pure white. Like there's a lot of, I think just a lot of depth in it. Really wonderful texture work when you actually look close. And then, of course, you've got the blue there to, you know, highlight it a bit, which, yeah, I mean, man, just the flowiness of this as well, right? Like, the shape work is absolutely gorgeous, and I can really see elements of this mixing quite well into other transmog sets in the game. I've got to be real with you, this is one of my favorites in the game, and yes, this is something that I would actively seek out. In the same way that Legion had a few really exciting artifact weapon tints that I really wanted to go for, this is one of those, along with those cloaks. So thus far, we're off to an absolutely smashing start. And then we've got Art and Wield Mail, which honestly is the weakest looking of the Art and Wield sets. Now, for me, first, right, this is a mail piece of armor, but if you actually look at the armor, you can see it's constructed out of plates of metal. So to me, it doesn't really fit that mail armor aesthetic fantasy that people actually want to be going for and say they're hunter or they're shaman. So a little bit bummed out about that. And I've got to say that overall, it looks the least unique of the sets. Really, it just, to me, does look like a bit of Alliance Cataclysm PvP armor. Now, that said, there are nice elements, right? I like those sort of jagged elements you've got on the bracers and on the shoulders. So those are strong elements that could be mogged into other sets. But yeah, gotta say this is the weakest of Art and Wield for me. Anyway, next, let's move on to leather. And I think leather does fare quite a bit better. Now, if I'm thinking about this in the context of my personal tastes, I would rather have this on a more thin-shouldered character. Certainly just, I think that the scaling of those shoulders is a little bit out of whack, such that the characters look more top-heavy than I think is ideal. But that said, when I actually look at the elements, I think that they're really gorgeous. This will mix into loads of existing Transmog sets quite well. I think it's a pretty nice looking set on its own. I think if anything is a little bit weak, it is maybe a lack of visual balance. Like the eye is massively drawn to the top region of the armor, but I don't think it's really that well guided, and it sometimes can get a little bit lost in the details, which is why for this, I really think that the elements are great, but the overall set doesn't really feel as clearly good to me as the plate. And those like little pouches and trinkets on the belt, I think are just a really, really strong thing that, I mean, yeah, you look at your character running around and it's got some stuff on it, right? Sort of, you know, bobbing about the place. That's a type of character customization that I really do like to see Blizzard actually do more of. So there you go, another super strong set. And with that, let's move into cloth. Wow. This cloth set is absolutely gorgeous. That helm feels to me really, really unique. I absolutely love how the blues are just sort of rising up out of the antler. Yeah, really, really, really nice. As for the rest of it, yeah, pretty damn great. I think it will depend on what character you're using. I think, I think female characters will probably look a little bit better in this one, just judging on the shoulders, and certainly you'll want to work out like what your character's like sort of shirt or something like that is to get the colors actually matching right. But certainly with this one, great elements. I think a really nice looking piece of armor. Overall for me with Ardenweald, it is extremely strong in my opinion. I really like it, but I've got to say, if there was anything to be revisited, it would be that plate. I think the plate looks good with the cloaks and all of that, but it just feels like it could use a little bit more in the uniqueness department. And then next up, we've got the Necrolords of Maldraxxus. Yeah, wow, these guys are quite a change in gear from the Night Fae, let's just say that. Tier 1 cloak, I think, looking pretty darn good. It's certainly going to be something that's fitting more specific Transmog sets. I think for me, as somebody who does like more saturated colors, not really doing it for me as much, but certainly it's going to do a good job of what it's trying to do. For me with this one, though, I think the Tier 2 is a stronger one just because of what it does to the silhouette. And, you know, it's not like those look like brittle bones. Those look like you could just turn around and, you know, accidentally kill somebody. I think Tier 2 is looking pretty darn good. And then with Tier 3, I do like how the third version of it is just completely different. Now, if I think about how that would actually look on a character running around in-game, I think that would look pretty darn great. It's also giving you a nice green color. And what's strong about that is, well, you can mix that in to some of the other transmogs in the game. So if you've got, you know, other transmogs where just a nice little, you know, maybe highlight color or something like that is green, you mix this in and it's going to fit really well with the set. So looking pretty darn good. And with that, let's go and take a look at their armor sets. We'll begin with plate, which, I mean, yeah, it's metal as hell. Certainly, if you were a warrior who was wanted to feel like a Death Knight, well, hey, here you go. And I mean, come on, just look at this. It's got that, like, green soul energy. Almost reminds me of Minas Morgul, right? That, you know, in Lord of the Rings. These are sort of like the green death energy going up. Absolutely gorgeous looking. And then when I actually look at the set, tell you what I love. I love the way it's almost got this exoskeleton on it. Right, when you actually look at all the bone-colored elements, as you know, compared to the plate, I think that is just so strong visually. I love this bit of gear. Once again, another fantastic job, and one that in terms of its colors, like this is going to look so good with that Tier 3 cloak. I think it's also going to look so good if you can just get a nice, just mean-feeling sword. This one, yeah, it is classic Death World of Warcraft done pretty much perfectly. So, well done, art team, and let's move on. Ardenweald plate disappointed me a bit, less so for Maldraxxus. I mean, certainly if you want a death-feeling hunter, I think back to, say, my, you know, ICC Hunter Transmog set from back in the day, then certainly this is one that's going to be feeling pretty darn good for you. Also interesting that they are going with the one shoulder approach, something they've done in a limited fashion in the past. I think it can work good or badly depending on the armor set. This one, though, I've got to admit, I do quite like it. And when I look at all of the elements, yeah, this one's gorgeous. It's getting all of the same wins with, like, how it's doing, like, the edge highlighting and stuff that the plate got, but it's actually translated that well to leather. Now, there is one thing that I would say, and yeah, this is mail. Looking at it, it ain't mail. It's plate again.
I would really like to be able to see Blizzard actually try to work in some mail elements into mail. Certainly thinking of some of the Legion sets actually did that pretty well. Anyway, a really good set. Let's move on. And, oh boy. Yeah, this is the leather set. It's unique, I will certainly say that. I'll tell you what, I think that the artists absolutely succeeded in what they were going for here, but I just don't particularly think that's something that many people would have wanted them to go for. Maybe when I'm looking at this one, you've just got some issues with the way that those like lumps of metal are actually sort of bolted onto the character. I think they kind of hurt the visual flow of this set, but I also understand how without those, and if it was just that sort of sickly looking leather hue, if it was just that and there's nothing else breaking that up, I could understand how it would feel like this is actually missing something. Now, I will say that the helm is really cool. I think the shoulders are really cool. The gloves could work into something else. Right now, I'm not particularly sold on the colors of it. I think the flow is pretty weak. Certainly on my Demon Hunter, I'm not going to be wearing this one. And then next, we've got their cloth set. Yeah, do you want that Kel'Thuzad death feel? You know, you're going to be a lich, but you're not quite dead yet. And then also a little bit of an Egyptian vibe. I mean, look at that headrest look that's going on. Man, yeah, then this is going to give it to you. Now, there's a slight issue here where World of Warcraft actually doesn't have a Necromancer class, and this certainly looks like something that would fit a Necromancer. But, hey, if you want a bit of that fantasy into your cloth, this one's going to give it to you. I think this is a fantastic, fantastic set. And overall, for nailing that death vibe, yeah, they really, really have done it with the NECROLORDs. Great job, Blizz. Let's move on. All right, it is KYRIAN time. And what I love here is they've got three very, very different feeling cloaks. So to look at the first one, yeah, you get this big old circle boy going there. Is it a big glowy light show? No, but it's a pretty nice element, I think, to add to your character. So that's their tier 1 cloak. Then their tier 2 one, it kind of reminds me of like, some of those like rune inscriptions, or even the Kirin in some of its shapes, or that could just be me losing my mind. Certainly a bit less interesting, though. It is just a sort of pretty slab of gold on your back. And then, of course, there's the one that people are really going to want to go for, which is the angel wings, which, yes, look absolutely wonderful. I think what's going to be cool here is seeing them on really broad-shouldered, more sort of square silhouetted characters versus more like sort of fine, finesse-looking characters. I think it's going to look really good in both of those cases. Overall, 3 absolutely fantastic cloaks for the KYRIAN. Certainly, this is going to be stuff that people will be darn excited to get. And when you actually see how these pair with the KYRIAN gear, I mean, man, they're just such strong looks. Is it the most unique thing ever? No, but it's absolutely iconic, and they've just nailed what they're trying to go for. Kicking it off with plate, well, certainly if you wanted something that was a little bit more smooth, you're not getting it here. You are a lot more of a walking battle tank. This kind of reminds me of the Paladin Stormcast Eternals from Warhammer Age of Sigmar, a little bit. Not massively, but a little bit. I mean, man, this is really cool. Look at all of that like brimming soul energy towards the top from the shoulders and the helm. What's cool about that is those are just really strong elements. They will go with other bits of, sort of paladin-ish vibed gear that's in the game. So, plate for the KYRIANs, looking really damn strong and will combo fantastically with the other stuff. Now, there are some alternative tints for this, which you will have seen sort of pop up around the screen. I do quite like them. Actually, if you want a more mean vibe, you can do that. I think there's a lot of people who would maybe play the KYRIANs and they would be a little bit more drawn to, let's just say, another group of KYRIANs as you run into through your leveling process. And I really like how Blizzard are giving you options there. And I would hope that this would infer, and I do believe it's pretty much confirmed, that there would be other tints for the other, for the other covenants. So, and next up, we've got the KYRIAN mail set. And wow, this is really nice. And as somebody who, has rolled mail wearing characters for a long time with my hunter being my old main, yeah, it's nice to see really, really, really good looking mail armor. If you look at this, right, yes, there is like actual plate around it, but hey, look, we've actually got mail in the set. We got mail, we got some sort of leather for the legs. So yeah, I mean, it's mail armor that's made out of mail. Pretty cool. In terms of color schemes, I mean, hey, if you have got yourself a light forged Draenei hunter, this is going to look absolutely incredible on that character. But of course, there is lots more in the way of tints. You can get that more dark, evil looking version with the pink or with the purple even as well. Just in terms, again, things like flow are super strong in this piece of armor. I especially love the helm, the way that that's done. Yeah, another fantastic set for the KYRIANs. And next up, we've got the leather. Now, Gotta admit, this is no form of leather that I've really ever seen before, because it certainly does look like plate. So, I mean, there is that, which is a little bit strange looking. Certainly, though, as a leather set, I think it is actually really quite nice. I like how it's got a different silhouette as well to the male one. It's a bit less square, a bit less boxy. Like, it still is nice and thick and chunky, but you got some more of those rounded edges. So if that's a vibe you want for your character, I think that's going to work quite well. Certainly, why a rogue would want to be running around in this, I'm not particularly sure. Maybe the other tints would do that job pretty nicely, though. Overall, yeah, another really, really nice one. And what I especially love is when you actually rotate the character model here, you've got a very uniquely shaped helm for this guy. So that's another pretty unique feeling element. And then also with the way that the shoulders are, I love how they're not thick and blocky. They're just these bits of metal extending out that then have the color radiating from them instead of just being this one massive chunk. So I think that is looking pretty damn sweet. And with that, let's move on to cloth. Bloody hell, that is a really nice cloth set. I mean, just wow. Yeah, you know, I love a lot of contrast. So the white, the gold, the blue, it's looking absolutely wonderful here. I'm not exactly sure what else I can say about this. I can see it really fitting like a holy priest, a disc priest, pretty well. Though, of course, this other tints will work for other classes, but yeah, hey, another super strong one. With the KYRIANs, I think they do risk being, I mean, all of these risk being a little bit one note because the theme is like so clear and so strong. I'm happy there's tints there to help to vary that up a little bit. And, you know, certainly, once again, I think this is going to be stuff the players will be excited to collect. That is something we did not feel in the Battle for Azeroth expansion, right? Something we did feel in Legion, and it seems to be a strength that Shadowlands is keen to bring back. Okay, with that, let's move on. Oh man, the VENTHYR. These guys, you know, beforehand I wasn't actually that interested in them, but the more that I see some of their looks, especially these cloaks, the more I'm impressed. I mean, wow, starting off at tier 1, right? Just some beautiful, like, I suppose, is it Gothic looking architecture? Whatever the technical term is. Yeah, wow. Absolutely delicious. I'd love to see this mixed in with other transmog sets in the game. Yeah, I absolutely love it. Then moving on for tier 2, we've got these blades. Now, what I love about this is just the curvature, the shape of them, the flow, what it'll do to your character, I guess. What, a fan of swords coming out of your back. Now, is this going to be, is it Blood Elf themed? No, not really, but with the curviness and with the red, I actually think there's some Blood Elf transmogs that, funny enough, could really benefit from this one. And then finally, we've got their tier 3, which, yeah, you know, you're just running around the place with a tombstone in your back. Very cool. I love, actually, the detailing of this, though. So number 1, edge highlighting on that metal chain. Oh, you know, Blizzard, it's like when you look at a really, really well-painted Warhammer figure or something like that. Blizzard are so good at the edge highlighting in their metals and their stone. It looks absolutely gorgeous. And then we actually sort of zoom into those candles. They've got so few polygons to work with those candles. Yeah, when you look at it far away, they've got such a sense of shape. So absolutely gorgeous stuff. And with that, let's move into their sets. So sadly, there is no male data mined, similar to what we had with the KYRIANs, but we'll kick it off with the plate. Oh, wow. I mean, do you want gargoyles, you know, that are supposed to be perched in the castle walls? Do you just want those on your shoulders? Yeah, why not? It's bloody World of Warcraft. We can do that. And there you go, Blizzard certainly have. And if you actually look at the feet, I think it's quite neat how those feet actually look like, is it the Gorgon? I forget what. Basically, the feet look like the paws of one of the mounts that you can get from the area. Now, I will say the one thing I'm a little bit less keen on is the sort of fanned out element on the helm. Overall, though, come on, it's red, it's gold, it's got some gargoyles on it. Really, really, really cool looking. And again, feeling pretty unique. So I love that. And I especially love how those shoulders are going to give us another unique feeling transmogrification element that we'll be able to move into other sets. As an example, if you look at those shoulders, the shoulders are not primarily dominated by orange. I mean, they obviously are by red even. Now that actually means that there's going to be a whole bunch of sets with maybe some different feeling colors. You actually could mog into this, though certainly things like this do make me wish that, you had a slight tinting system so that you could, say, get those gorgeous shoulders and actually get them into other sets. Anyway, with that, let's move on to leather, which is looking a good bit less simple, right? But tell you what I do like, it does actually look like leather when you get past all of the plates they've bolted on it, so that's a little bit weird. To be honest with you, I'd love to see this, but without the armor plates everywhere. I mean, that could be a real classy looking combat transmog. So I'd say, Blizzard, right, you have that set, surely. because you've just added the armor on top of that. So I would love to see just a more, a more sort of clean, simple version of this. Maybe it doesn't even have to be armor. Maybe it could be a, like a cosmetic set that you could apply to anything. So overall, I think looking pretty cool, a little bit less into the helm, but overall, yeah, I do like it quite a bit. And then finally for the cloth, I've got to admit, I love the shoulder element. I think that's really, really cool indeed. Now that said, I don't think the rest of it is really working, right? So my eye is drawn to the brighter colors here, right? So it's going to be drawn to the bright red found in the shoulders and in the waist, but it doesn't really feel like it knows where to go because in the middle of those three objects is just a very regular plain looking chest. So I think just compositionally, I'm not the biggest fan of this one, but its elements certainly are something that I'd be keen to mix into pre-existing Transmog sets. So we're going to take a little diversion into the ORIBOS dungeon set. This stuff could be a little bit more whip, okay? Whip meaning work in progress. So yeah, we're just going to hop into it though, because I think it's really, really cool looking. Now overall, right, we'll start off with the cloth one. What do you see in that? I mean, I think you totally see that this is like old Titan. Like it does have those Titan looking elements and that technology, but it's just more aged, more weathered. And I think if you then look at ORIBOS, there's interesting implications there for the lore of ORIBOS, the age of it. Now, the leather one, yeah, significantly less finished. The shoulders obviously aren't there. I think, average enough, sort of cool looking set. If we then move on to the mail, once again, a very interesting looking one. I think the helm is kind of cool. As for the rest of it, I think odd shapes. I think a little bit messy looking with its silhouette. Certainly though, I think those shoulders are a very uniquely shaped element that could be mogged into other sets of gear. And then for the plate one, also looking quite interesting. Yeah, you kind of look like this little automaton dude. I mean, yeah, kind of big, but hey, that's actually really unique. I've got to say I like it quite a bit. Certainly the helm is going to be, some people will really like that, think it's very cool. Other people a little bit less so, but hey, I'm happy that they're putting more wild things out there into the game. And of course, there is the other tint of it, data mined as well. There'll be a lot more here with like the dungeon sets and the leveling sets, but I just thought I'd highlight these as just a sort of unique, nice little twist on the Titan aesthetic that you may have been used to. It is time for the Maw. Now the Maw, right? This is where Torghast is. It's like the mirror of Icecrown Citadel, and you can see that with his plate armor, can't you? Wow. I mean, you barely even have words for this one. It is so good. Holy shit, this is a really incredible piece of armor. Yeah, I'll get this. I don't actually care what I need to do to get this. Now, it is labeled Maw Raid, so I assume this is a raid we'll be doing. Now, because we know that Castle Nathreza is the first raid, this is probably like, our second raid, our Dazara lore, our Nighthold. So that's probably when you'll be able to get this. What an absolutely stunning looking piece of gear. The shoulders, gorgeous. The chest, gorgeous. We've got the big plates at the top, we got the sort of scale stuff, the mail at the bottom, looking really incredible. So well done, Blizz. And what I like about this as well is there are many different tints for it, of course, corresponding to, Alliance PvP, Horde PvP, and then your raid difficulties. I think the white one looks really cool, really spooky. So that's pretty incredible looking. And then, of course, you do have your other tints. I like as well how there is a more Lich King feeling one where it's got like green death energy coming out of it, but still does retain, like the color of the metal without changing it too much from its sort of, darker element. So that's pretty cool. And then there is that gold one that is a little bit weird to me. Certainly a different vibe. I do quite like it though. Really, I like all of these tints. This is an incredible piece of gear. Wow. Just simply well done. Blizzard, this is a bit of gear that is so good that people will see this and think, I need to get this for my character. I need to play this game. And that is a massive strength. Sadly, past that, we don't have too much more for the mod, just cloth. And with this cloth one, I will say that overall, there are all of those bright points in an otherwise very dark bit of armor that sometimes are a bit confusing to the eye. If I actually look at those elements though, that is one mean looking helm. Just look at those eyes. Wow. Look at the eyes. Look at the shoulders, floating skulls everywhere. Oh yeah. I cannot wait to see what mail and what mail and leather look like for the Maw, because Blizzard are doing an absolutely standout job. What I think is really cool is if you actually zoom down to the white and gold one, that looks like a disciplined priest. That looks like the most disciplined priest that you're ever going to see, right? Is really going to, you know, give you some issues, let's just say, yeah, this is incredible work. I am very excited for getting whatever the Maw is going to be giving me. Now, is this going to be a raid in the Maw? It could be. Could Maw raid just be what they're labeling the Torghast gear? I mean, yeah, that could also be the case. Certainly though, wow, incredibly strong bits of gear. Well done, Blizzard.
And there you go, a nice big long session of looking at pretty gear for our characters. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, right, like look at all those KYRIAN tints. There's so many of them. So we can assume that we'll have that similar level of tinting for the other stuff, right, for the other different covenants. And that sure does mean a lot of progression because each one of those tints, for each one of those bits of armor, that's going to be from something different. And then for the cloaks, you know, as well. There's going to be all that stuff. So, you know, I doubt it's going to be the case, right, where I want to roll 12 different level 100 or, you know, max level characters like I did in Legion. But certainly for this expansion, I'll have 4 characters. I will want to take one character through each one of the Covenants. And I think that'll be a pretty good experience. And certainly, and this is the bit I think really matters, when it's patch 9.2.5, right, and you've done a whole bunch of gameplay in your main, you've done your raiding, you've done your dungeons, your Torghast, and you're just a bit bored and you're like, well, 9.3 is going to be forever away. What do I do? Well, you'll be able to roll an alt, get some of that cool stuff on it, right? And that could be a really satisfying thing. So I think that bodes really well for the health of Shadowlands and therefore the health of World of Warcraft. So let me know what you think about this stuff down below. Is this the kind of thing that excites you? And certainly in Legion, when you had those content lulls, did you fall back in doing that core class order hull content to see you through any dry spells? Let me know what this actually means for you. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.